Hey, good Wednesday morning, everybody. BAM Weather Meteorologist Brett Waltz here, giving you your weekly Winter Weather Wednesday update where we focus on signals for the winter season ahead. Let's jump right into it. Wanted to start out with some key notes. Over the next several weeks, warmth is going to dominate across the eastern United States. More record-breaking warmth that we'll chat about briefly, and some key changes in model data overnight that I think could have implications not just late November, but potentially beyond, and I think that could even be related to the North Pacific Ocean, which I think could be a big driving force this winter, and we'll talk about where that leaves us for the winter of 2024-2025. Speaking of that, guys, if you want a full breakdown, we'll go over some details in this video, but if you want a full breakdown month by month, snow forecasts, city snow forecasts, analogs, the whole shebang. Be sure to sign up for our winter webinar next week, bamwx.com/webinar. We will be streaming live at 11 a.m. November 13th, talking about the winter forecast. We'll talk about South America, ag weather as well, powered by our friends at Farm Credit Mid-America. If you can't join live, still sign up. We will be sending out the recording after the fact, but you have to sign up to be able to receive that. The day after that, we will be having our first winter weather workshop. That will be in Burgersville, Indiana, if you are local, between 5 and 8 p.m. We'll be talking about the challenges of winter weather prediction. We'll touch on our winter outlook as well, and then really talk about how you can better utilize weather data for your decisions with winter operations. So if you do snow removal, street and highway department, things like that, will be able to kind of help you better incorporate data into your decision making. And it'll be really fun. Would love for you all to come out and meet us next Thursday evening. Until then, it's going to continue to be very warm. And in fact, today, more record-breaking warmth likely across the eastern part of the country. All of these circles indicating record warm high temperatures today, spans from the Gulf Coast all the way up the East Coast, the interior, or I should say the coastal northeastern United States. A lot of record-breaking warm highs. More of that tomorrow, not quite as many, but still Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, quite a few record-breaking warm high temperatures tomorrow. Now, a gradient in temperatures, you can see kind of cooler air to the north and to the west, warmer air south and east. That type of setup has led to a very active last 2 weeks, a big deviation from what we had throughout much of the month of October. You can see 200, 300, 400% of the normal rainfall has fallen the past 14 days across the central plains and into the parts of the Midwest, while it's been dry along the East Coast. And if we look at the next 7 days, not quite as active, but still a good portion of Kansas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Colorado, and even into the lower Ohio Valley and the Tennessee Valley, going to continue to deal with some heavier rainfall potential. The active pattern continues, and if you look at the temperatures, you can see why. Colder air in the Mountain West and Desert Southwest, warmer air south and east, very warm temperatures compared to normal across this southeastern part of the country. And again, that will persist as we go into this 13th to 19th time frame. You look at these two maps, they're really not that different. This is about as consistent of a pattern as you can really get. Temperatures will continue to run well above normal for the eastern half of the country, and it will allow for continued above normal precipitation. I didn't change my dates here. Let me do that real quick. There we go. November 13th to 19th, percent of normal precipitation. Central part of the country especially will continue to run a good bit above normal with rainfall potential. Now, I want to talk about late November risk. We touched on this. If you're a Clarity subscriber, you subscribe to our commodity reports. We talked about this yesterday with late November, that perhaps there could be a brief stretch of some cooler air. I'm seeing increasing risk with this, though, this morning. There's still some signals with our Southern Oscillation Index that we could have a little bit of a cooler period leading up to Thanksgiving, but we also have signals that are trending warmer in that same time frame. The polar vortex continues to be a warm signal overall, kind of keeps the core of the cold near Alaska, and East Asia is also a warm signal here through about the 25th of the month. I think ultimately what can happen is probably a cold front. We moderate things, maybe bring in some cooler air for a brief time, but I think in the grand scheme of things, any kind of change is going to be very short-lived. We're not going to see a true pattern change, and that's reflected by the overnight trends in the model data last night. You take a look at the EPS here, these blue and green colors that you see near Alaska, basically we'll chalk that up to colder trends here near Alaska. And if you've been with us for a while, we often talk about when it gets cold in Alaska, it gets warm in the US, and you can see that reflected in the warmer than normal trends last night in Canada and across the United States. This trend has been one, to be completely honest, we have seen consistently over the past several winters. Model data in the extended range tries to build in some warmth and high pressure near Alaska, which again is better for cold in the US, but as we get closer it backs off. And we saw it once again from the EPS last night, and I think that it just again goes to show that any kind of pattern transition is not likely in the cards. Can we see a front? Can we see a moderation? Can we see some cooler air bleed a little bit further east for a brief time? Yes, but I don't think we see any kind of extended pattern change through the end of November. You take a look at our weeks 3 and 4 forecast out through the second of the month. Based off the trends last night, I think if anything, there's a warmer risk in this area. I think, again, for a brief time, maybe some cooler air could try to bleed into the plains, but, you know, if we continue to kind of constrict how long that could last, the risk is certainly on the warmer end of things. Regardless, the eastern U.S. overall staying warmer than normal. If you take a look at the North Pacific pattern, and I think this is not only a key to trends that happened last night, but I think it's a key to what could happen as we go through this winter. You take a look at the Pacific Ocean temperatures compared to normal. All the oranges and reds you see here, much warmer than normal temperatures. And of course the blues, cooler than normal ocean waters. You compare that to our upper level heights and, you know, generally surface temperatures as well, and it's pretty much co-located. These warm sea surface temperatures pretty much co-located with above normal temperatures and heights and ridging and high pressure in the atmosphere. And so to me, this indicates that the Pacific Ocean temperatures are going to have a major impact on the pattern as we not only go through November, but likely winter. You know, I think that this could be one of the bigger pattern drivers for the winter that we need to keep an eye on. And part of the reason for that is because the latest value of what we call the PDO, the Pacific Decadal Oscillation, it basically is measuring how strong the difference in the warmth across the central Pacific is and the cooler waters to the north and along the west coast. It basically measures the difference there. The latest update was the most negative of all time. Not just for October, the most negative for any month in recorded history dating back to the 1850s. It's the lowest that it has ever been on record, and that is a huge deal. And it is something that we have to keep in mind for our winter forecast. It's been negative for the past several years. You really have to go back, I think it is to like 2017, 2018, 2019, and there, the last time it's been positive, that it's been flipped. Right now, we've been in this consistent pattern, and I think it's something we have to factor into our outlook ahead. And so I went back and I looked at the top 5 strongest negative PDO winters on record, and they're warm east. And we are already seeing that, I think, set up. Favors colder air north and west, and a lot of warmth across the eastern half of the country. It also favors a very active pattern. You know, if you're across maybe parts of the Mountain West, the Northern Plains, maybe some more snow opportunities this winter for you. But this signal for the Midwest and the Ohio Valley would be rainy. It would be wet, based off of just the Pacific Ocean. But it's not just the Pacific Ocean we need to look at. I decided to kind of combine this idea of a strong negative PDO, that strong warm blob in the West Pacific, with the cooler Enso state, cool neutral or a weak La Nina. That's what we're expecting for this winter. And you combine the two indices and it is not good for winter lovers. This is a very warm signal, and to me it's a very concerning one if we're looking at extended cold blasts for the winter. To me, this would certainly limit more notable cold risk for the upcoming winter, especially across the eastern part of the country. It's also a wet signal, again, especially for the Ohio Valley and the Midwest. And so if we just examine real quick our current December, January, and February temperatures, if anything, I think that there's the risk that this much above normal could even be expanded a little bit. Our forecast is warm right now. Based off of this that we're seeing right now in the Pacific, I think the risk, if anything, is a little bit warmer. In terms of December, we got the latest monthly model guidance in. This is the American data, the European data, and the Canadian data. They are all very, very warm for the month of December. The tendency right now, and if I had to make a gut call, is that December is going to be warm. Could there still be some cooler air towards the holidays? I don't think it's impossible depending on our tropical forcing, but I think the signaled November and into December is increasingly warm right now. I wish I had better news for your winter hopes, winter lovers out there. We will talk more about this in our webinar. Because the Pacific Ocean and La Nina, it's not our be-all, end-all. There are some other things that I want to keep an eye on and I want to talk about. And again, this is December and into early winter, so we'll need to keep an eye on late winter as well. But at least for now, the signals are trending in a warm direction as we head into the winter season. Guys, that's all I have for today. Thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to like and share this video, and I hope you all have a great rest of your Wednesday.